Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Judson University webinar, Crushing Your Next Interview. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Katie, and I'm going to be moderating our webinar today. To begin, let's cover the agenda, and I will tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about during our time together this evening. So we're going to be discussing three key aspects of interviewing. The first thing that we'll talk about is what you should do before your interview and how you can prepare to make a fantastic first impression, regardless of how that interview is being conducted. Now, you've all heard the saying that you should dress for the job that you want, and we'll review exactly what that looks like. We'll even talk a little bit about what it looks like now that we're all living our lives from behind a webcam. Then we'll discuss the small steps you can take to make sure you're standing out from the competition. And then last but not least, our hosts will cover a Q&A session. Speaking of which, I'd like to call attention to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If at any time during our webinar you have a question, feel free to type it in there and we will do our best during the Q&A session to answer that question at the end of the webinar. So with all of that out of the way, let me go ahead and introduce you to our hosts this evening, Rachel, Hamann, and Tonya. Rachel, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rachel Hamann, and I work in career services here at Judson University. Thanks for letting me join you today. Here at Judson, we provide a variety of career services to our students, and they range anywhere from resume consultations to mock interviews, to assistance with graduate school essays, to connecting with alumni in your field and industries, to career fairs and virtual career fairs. Wherever you're at in your educational journey as a Judson student, Career Services tailors the professional experience to you. And that's one of the things I love about working at a university like Judson. The Career Services is able to uniquely tailor the career experience to each student, no matter where they're at in their professional journey.
Thanks, Tonya, thanks, Rachel, and thanks for joining us this evening. Tonya, do you want to introduce yourself as well, please?
Absolutely. My name is Tonya White, and I'm an executive enrollment coach here at Judson. So when students are making the choice for moving forward in their educational journey, I'm here to help them from that very first conversation to chat about goals and objectives and what they're looking for in a degree program to make sure to see if Judson would be the right fit for them. And when they decide that they're ready to move forward with Judson, I'm here to help through the entire enrollment process, including admissions and financial readiness.
Awesome. Thank you both, ladies. Now, Rachel, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so you can review the rest of the presentation for us.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. So we are talking about interviews this evening. Right now, about 70% of interviews are held virtually because of the current state of the world as it stands. So we'll go through in-person interviews, but we also will discuss virtual interviews and how to prepare efficiently for those, because those seem to be the industry norm right now. So we'll talk at first about how to prepare yourself for an interview. In order to prepare yourself, we just have an easy checklist of some things to keep in mind. First thing you want to do is you want to research the company that you have an interview with. Your interview is just a great opportunity to go in and learn a little bit more about the culture of the company, but you should walk into that interview with a little bit of background knowledge about the company. Some great ways to research the company is through their website. Check out their mission and their vision and their values. Check out the history of the organization, see what services they offer. Those kinds of things you can all find very readily on the website. We would also recommend checking out the social media pages of any organization that you're interviewing with. This shows the image that they want the consumer to see, and it shows the message and branding that is important to that organization. So in order to kind of understand their vibe and their culture, we definitely recommend checking out their Twitter, Facebook page, Instagram, whatever they might have. And then lastly, we recommend looking at good old LinkedIn. You can realize a lot from LinkedIn. Perhaps if you know the name of your interviewer, you can check out his or her or their page, See if you can find any common ground. Perhaps you root for the same sports teams. Perhaps you have the same high school that you graduated from. Whatever it is, it's always good to go into an interview armed with some of those connections with the people interviewing you. As well as you might be surprised by your LinkedIn page at some of your second circle connections or third circle connections within LinkedIn. You might know somebody who already works at that organization. And so check through your contacts on LinkedIn. See if you know anybody or know anybody that knows somebody that works there, and see if maybe somehow you can connect with that person and ask them a little bit more about the organization. So the first thing is research the company. The second point we have is to read up and then practice, that's the important part, the most commonly asked interview questions. And here in Career Services, we usually direct students towards monster.com, Indeed, Balance Careers, The Muse. Those are all professional websites that keep a kind of a running list of commonly asked interview questions. Another great resource for that is actually Glassdoor, because employees from that organization will enter things like salary range, but they also have a ability to enter in interview questions that they were asked. So it's good to look at those resources just to see common interview questions. The top three, the big three that you can usually always count on and always prepare for in an interview is kind of the icebreaker when they ask, tell me a little bit about yourself. What they're really asking is not, I mean, they want to know your hobbies and they want to know you and they want to break the ice, but what they're really asking is, tell me what about you makes you a good fit for this job. So try and weave in whatever you're talking about yourself into how you would fit that job description and what they're looking for. The second one, of course, is what are your strengths and weaknesses? That's one in some fashion or form that you will get in any interview that you attend. The last one, and it's a very simple question, but I think it throws a lot of us off, is why should we hire you? That's a common interview question. It's really good to have an answer locked and loaded for that question. And then the last one is, in order to prepare, print your resume and outline for key talking points. While we recommend preparing with your resume and having an outline for key talking points, we would not recommend bringing those key talking points with you into the interview. Sometimes they can kind of serve as a crutch, and you want to feel as polished and prepared as possible. But definitely I would bring those with you in the car, or have them on your phone before you go into the interview, just to refresh your memory. And then we always recommend bringing several copies of your resume to in-person interviews as well. All right, next slide. Okay, something that interviewers always ask at the end of an interview is, do you have any questions for us? And it's always good to have 3 just kind of in your back pocket to ask. And the more thoughtful and detailed those questions are, the more impressed these potential employers might be. So some common questions that are always good to ask are something as simple as, what do the day-to-day responsibilities of this role look like? Who will I report to, or who will I be working closely with? Another good one is, what's your favorite part about working here? What is the company's team and culture like? And if you want to know about professional development, you can ask about those opportunities. That always impresses employers as well. Another great one is, what is the training onboarding process for this role? Again, if you go to any of those professional preparation websites, Monster, Indeed, Glassdoor, The Muse, they have a ton of questions to ask an employer at the end of an interview, so they're great resources. Something else that we highly recommend to not just students, but to anybody, is to participate in a mock interview. This can feel really awkward, but it's super helpful because it helps you learn how to answer difficult questions, develop interview strategies, improve your communication skills, and it reduces your stress before the actual job interview. Trust me, you'll be so happy if you partake in a mock interview. If your actual real life interview with an organization is virtual, I would recommend practicing a mock interview virtually as well. And we'll talk later on in the presentation about ways that you can prepare for that. It's great to do a mock interview over Zoom as well, because you can hit that record button and kind of look at your responses and revise and figure it out from there. If you are a Judson student, you have the opportunity to schedule a mock interview with Career Services, and we are more than happy to do so. Okay, so now we're going into testing your tech, and this is obviously for those virtual interviews. They are becoming the norm now, and so it's good for all of us just to have a general knowledge of how to conduct ourselves in a virtual interview. So you definitely want to test your internet, microphone, and camera capabilities. I would say several days before the interview, just to make sure everything's good, that your Wi-Fi connection's strong, those types of things. We also would recommend headphones with a built-in microphone, just to kind of keep away from outside noises. Sometimes we can't control if there's a fire engine going down the street, and we can't always control if somebody rings the doorbell in our home. But I think if we have those headphones, and it helps mute that noise a little bit more. At least one day before your virtual interview, we would recommend to recheck all that technology, ensure it works effectively, and that you can use it to communicate effectively. I would troubleshoot for loud noises like dogs barking and phones ringing. Also on our computers, we tend to have a lot of notifications. I actually had to go through all of my different notification sounds before this presentation to make sure that they were all turned off, because you don't want anything dinging or coming through in the middle of an interview as well. Okay. All right, continuing on test your tech. You want to find an area in your home that has minimal distractions and clutter in the background. What I would do is test yourself on Zoom, hit Zoom beforehand when you're testing your tech, and then get out of the way and just look at your background and look at your backdrop. You don't want anything in the background distracting from the information that you're providing and the qualifications that you're putting forth. So you definitely want to minimize any clutter or anything that's happening in the back. You want their eyes drawn towards you and what you're saying. Again, you want a space that is quiet and isolated from other people. I would not go to a coffee shop or go to a public space in a library. Try to find a quiet space. If you don't have that in your home, consider asking a friend or a relative, somebody you know that might have that quiet space in their house with really good Wi-Fi, and ask them if you can use that for a couple hours, because that detail is pretty important. Lighting is also very important. So even with this webinar, I had to position my laptop in a way where my window, the lighting is behind my laptop so that you all can see my face better. So just play with the lighting a little bit. It does work better if it comes from behind the computer instead of from behind you, because you don't want to look like you have a halo and you're all glowing. Okay, now we're going to talk about the fun stuff, what to wear in an interview. So your clothes are the icing on the cake. You want to choose clothes that make you feel comfortable and confident, but also pay attention to a few important things. You want to know enough about the company culture to understand what level of professional dress you should wear. If you are ever wondering or not sure or can't tell what it is, we would always recommend dressing up rather than dressing down. You want to make sure your attire is free of stains, pet hair, holes, and wrinkles. Some of this seems obvious, but you would be surprised sometimes what is worn to interviews. It's great if it looks like it could be new, not revealing, poorly fitted, or otherwise distracting. And then we have some examples of interview clothing. What is and isn't appropriate for a job interview does depend on many things, including the company and the job itself. So here are some pictures. For the casual workplace, a nice button-down shirt or a polo is appropriate. I would recommend wearing, if you're going to wear jeans, wear kind of a dark color jeans or colored jeans instead of blue jeans. Somehow those present as a little more formal than blue jeans. So that would be for the casual workplace. For business casual, similar, it looks like, some kind of khakis or colored pants and a nice top, clean, tucked in, groomed. That's a great look. Notice that all of the examples are wearing solid prints. This woman has stripes. That's probably as crazy as you should get in an interview. You want to make sure that your outfit is not so distracting, and so that they can focus on what you are saying for sure. So bright colors are fine, but maybe stay away from the floral print Hawaii shirts unless you're looking for a job at Trader Joe's, because it would go there. Okay. Now this is more a formal workplace setting. We have either a blazer or a jacket and tie, tucked into the pants, nice shoes. This is a great interview outfit. I don't think you could go wrong wearing this outfit to an informal workplace. Usually it just goes the extra mile to impress your employers. Again, you would rather dress up than dress down. Okay, so we covered how to prep, what to wear, but we want to meaningfully engage during the actual interview. Especially in virtual interviews, your body language, posture, and voice say as much about you as your resume does. So you want to pay attention by doing the following. You want to sit up straight, smile, and maintain eye contact. If you are doing a virtual interview that looks like the camera, wherever the camera is on your desktop or your PC or your laptop, it feels strange to look straight at the camera like I'm doing right now. But what it looks like is I'm making eye contact with you right now. What I really want to do is look down at the pictures of everyone and of the presentation, and then we lose that eye contact. So you want to make sure you look right at the camera. Something that you can consider doing is moving the employer screen to directly beneath your webcam so that it does look like you're making that eye contact. When it's virtual, we almost need to exaggerate our body language and our facial expressions. Not too much, but it's harder to read body language through a virtual interview. So it's even more so important that we make that eye contact and have correct facial expressions and those kinds of things. So I know my tendency when I talk with people is to lean forward, and I notice I'm even doing that in the webinar. And so this is a good practice for me to just be aware of sit up and smile and look straight at the camera. And obviously we want to speak slowly and clearly and thoughtfully as we answer interview questions. We want to appear confident by not tapping our toes or clenching our jaw or chewing gum. Try as much as you can to not look off screen, even if there's a noise or even if you're thinking. I know I have a tendency to do that as well. When I'm thinking about something, I'll kind of look off to the side, try to maintain that camera eye contact. Obviously avoid chewing gum. We don't need anything to distract from the words that you're saying. Okay, and then you want to make connections, and we spoke about that a little bit at the beginning of the webinar. You can stand out from the competition by asking thoughtful questions and giving authentic examples. Here are some tips. You want to connect your story to the job, culture, and interviewer so that you and your interviewer are memorable. So keep their job description and posting in mind when you make that connection. You always want to answer with personalized examples because chances are interviewers are interviewing other candidates and they may not remember how you specifically answered a technical or logistical or even experiential question, but they will remember personalized things about you. So if you tell stories, if you make those connections, again, we had talked about, realizing if somebody's wearing, a Wisconsin Badger shirt to make a comment on that, or anything you can use to connect with your interviewers. They will surely remember that when they walk away. Again, make it as personal as possible. Tell your stories. Make sure they connect with what the employer is looking for so that it shows your qualifications and competencies. But definitely make it personal as well.
Great, thank you so much.
I flew through that, Katie, so.
No problem. Thank you so much for lending your expertise, Rachel. We really appreciate it. And before we go on to our Q&A session, there are a few reminders we'd like to cover. Rachel has spent a ton of time giving us some really great job interview tips. And I'm sure we're all walking away a lot more knowledgeable than we were 20 minutes ago. But we do want to remind you that one of the best things you can do for your career and your future career is really to earn more education. Now, here at Judson, we specialize in what we call career-centric classes. So that means that whether you're new to college and you're just getting your associate degree, or you're coming back for your MBA, our classes are designed to teach you processes and skills that you can not only implement in the future, but that you can implement in your current job and will help you become a better employee next time you move. So with that said, classes here at Judson start in both August and September. And so we encourage you to reach out to our enrollment team to make sure that you're ready to roll in just a few short weeks. And to get in contact with our team, you can call them directly at 888-524-9357. I will enter that into the chat in just a moment so that you can jot that down real quick, and then you can reach out to Tonya and her team, and they will be able to help you apply and get grooving on your education. Now, there's one more reminder we'd like to hit, and that is about our next webinar. So another really cool thing about Judson is that we do a lot to help our students move through their program. And even if you do choose to study online, you're not going to do it alone. So we'll be hosting another webinar titled Meet Your Personal Cheerleaders on August 26th at 5:30. And you can join that webinar to learn about a few things like the academic support we offer, how our coaches help you through the process, and you'll even meet a few of the enrollment team. So you can register by visiting judson.edu/webinar. And again, I will type that into the chat for your reference. All right, one more announcement from me, and then we'll turn our time back over to Rachel and Tonya, because I think we've all heard enough from me. But I see a few people who joined a little after we started, which is great. Welcome, and thanks for joining. But I'd like to call your attention to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Rachel and Tonya are going to spend the next couple of minutes answering some common questions we have and some questions that have already come in. But if you have one, feel free to pop it in there, and they will do their best. And with that said, it looks like we already have some questions. So Rachel, I'm going to direct this one to you. The question is that this person says they don't have a ton of job experience, but they're really trying to get a better job. What types of tips do you have for them, and what kind of accomplishments do you recommend they talk about?
That's a great question. And we see that a lot with the students here at Judson. When you don't have work experience, it's really important to highlight past activities, skills, and other experiences that you've had to show your unique skills and professionalism and competency. So talk about education and academic experiences, any classes that you've taken, training or certifications you've completed, and even personal or academic achievements that are relevant to the job. And so really just pull from all of your experiences that you've had so far in life, even if it's not work experience, and figure a way to weave that into the interview.
Great, thank you so much. Now we do have a question just about Judson in general. So Tonya, I'm going to ask you this one. Can you tell us, are campuses open again, or are we still doing things online?
Yeah, great question. So right now, Judson is in our return to campus plan. So we do have some classes that are slowly transitioning back to the face-to-face environment. Of course, the number one priority is that we are making sure our students and our faculty and staff are safe. So I work right here at our satellite campus in Rockford, so I'm able to meet with students on appointment basis. We also are piloting a couple of classes to make sure that, the social distancing is working or makes sense for the different classrooms and the course sizes of the number of students in each of the different classes. So I would say that the majority of the classes are still in more of an online format, but we are using technology to help still bring some more of that face-to-face experience to our students, and being able to practice a little bit more of that as we are transitioning back into more of either the 100% online or the face-to-face format.
Okay, thank you, Tonya. Yes, and to reiterate Tonya's point, we at Judson have been doing online education for a really, really long time. So, we believe that our online courses are just as good as the real thing. So even if you want to pursue your education online, you're still going to get a fantastic experience and benefit from, our 100-year plus history and experience in the higher ed space. So Rachel, this question is for you. This person says that they are a hard worker, but they feel like they're a bad interviewer. What tips and tricks do you have for them? And do you have any ideas on how they can kind of help calm their nerves before an interview?
Sure, that's another great question. I have yet to meet anybody, including myself, who does not get nervous before an interview. So that's a very common experience for us all. I think the mock interview is one of the best things we can all do to prepare for that interview. If there's something about actually physically saying the words out loud and answering it with another human that gives you an experience and takeaway that really makes students feel better. We see the relief on their faces after we do the mock interview. They go back and forth, and they feel more confident going into the real, live, actual interview space. So I would just say, do a mock interview, prepare the best you can, practice positive self-talk, and just remember, it's a conversation with other human beings. So.
Those are great tips. I like the way you frame that. It's a conversation, not like you're getting grilled.
Right.
So that's helpful to know. Okay, so one more question for you, Rachel. Do you have to be a Judson student to get help from career services?
Yes. So typically we work with Judson students and alum that are 1 year out.
Okay, great. But as Tonya, I'm sure, will tell you, if you choose to call her, there are plenty of resources available to our Judson students, which again is something that makes our institution very unique. And then I have one more question, and this one's for Tonya. This person says that they're stuck in their application. They've been trying to figure it out with a couple of things that are going on. Who can they call if they need help?
With the application process, they would definitely want to make sure that they are in touch with their coach. Their enrollment coach can definitely help kind of troubleshoot where they're at. And so I know that right now is definitely kind of a crazy time of year. So being able to set up some time more specifically to kind of slow things down and work one-on-one with someone to be able to figure out kind of what issues that they're having. Sometimes it's silly tech stuff that if it's like a birth date and they didn't use the calendar, then it's giving them that error message, or just little things here and there that the experienced coaches can kind of help walk them through. It really only takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes to walk page by page through the application together. So we definitely encourage students to not feel like they are bothering the coaches, or that this is something that I should be able to do on my own, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help, and we're here to help walk through, and you are not bothering any of us by, getting that additional assistance, because we want to make this process as easy as possible.
Great, thank you, Tonya. Yep, I know it can be really overwhelming to do things like this for the first time, especially if you haven't gone to school in a while, but of course our coaches are always there to help you. So it looks like those are all of the questions that we had come in. So again, thank you to everybody who's attended. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Tonya, for lending us your expertise and teaching us a thing or two. We hope to see you in classes in August and September. And as always, if you need to talk to Tonya or another one of our coaches, give us a call. That phone number is listed in the chat, but again, it is 888-524-9357. And again, we hope to see you on August 26th, where we meet some of our Judson support staff. But other than that, that's all from us this evening, and thanks again.